This is the autumn crocus, or also as it's known, the meadow saffron. Now, despite the name, it's neither a true crocus or the source of saffron. It's kind of its own thing, but it does look very similar to crocuses, including the type of crocus that does produce saffron. And unlike both of those other plants, the autumn crocus is very highly toxic. Meadow crocus is toxic through either inhalation, ingestion, or contact through the eyes, where it can absorb into the bloodstream pretty much. Most of the poisonings that come from the autumn crocus itself are due to mistaken identity, because especially the bulbs look like wild garlic. So when people are foraging, they come across the autumn crocus bulbs, they think that it's wild garlic, but it is actually very much not that. So they take it home, they cook it, they eat it, and then they get poisoned because they misidentified this flower. All parts of the autumn crocus plant are toxic, but the most toxic part is called the corms, which is basically like the bulb, which is the part that gets confused with wild garlic most of the time. Now, the main toxic compound found in the autumn crocus is called colchicine. Now, colchicine is actually used in medical cases to treat things like gout, but it is quite easy to overdose on, especially when you accidentally ingest the bulb of the autumn crocus. The most common symptoms and the initial symptoms are gastrointestinal, so it starts with cramps, vomiting, diarrhea, as well as things like fever. It can also cause what is called hypervolemic shock, which is when your body loses way too much fluid all at once, because due to the vomiting and diarrhea, you are not able to retain all of the fluid, so you basically just speed run dehydration of your cells. After all of the gastrointestinal symptoms start, then it can start to affect other organs as well, mainly the kidneys, liver, and respiratory system, and can also lead to paralysis specifically of the respiratory system, and the most common cause of death is due to respiratory failure due to that respiratory paralysis. The initial symptoms happen quite quickly, usually within 24 hours, sometimes less, and the full organ affection happens within 24 hours to 1 week of the poisoning. Now, there is technically no cure for this, but you can survive due to supportive therapy, basically just providing fluids and making sure your organs don't shut down. There can also be neurological symptoms such as seizures and hallucinations, but those are less common. But even if you do survive this, there is cases of long-lasting symptoms, including needing organ transplants and having long-lasting, neurological symptoms. Colchicine also has an interesting cellular mechanism. It works by binding to tubulin and messing with all of the tubulin functions, which leads to the improper protein manufacture, so your proteins aren't built properly. And it also messes with the mobility and the function of cells themselves. So overall, a very interesting poisonous plant. Make sure if you are foraging and you think you find wild garlic, make sure 100% that it is wild garlic, because poisoning by this accidentally is not a pleasant experience even a little bit.